Sean Fox said, "We may make it look easy, but like all sports, it takes hard work and dedication." Shauna was talking about cheerleading in her comment. Yes, she said that cheerleading was a sport. And having cheered for 6 years, I completely agree with her. I know that some of you may not take my view on this subject, but I'm here to reassure you that cheerleading is much more than the peppy, blonde, popular girls in short skirts. Like I said earlier, I have cheered for the past 6 years, and along with cheering, I have played basketball for 9 years, volleyball for 4 years, ran track for 2 years, and played soccer for 2 years. I have done what people consider to be real sports. I know what kind of hard work and dedication it takes to be successful in any of those sports, and the same goes with cheerleading. I know firsthand that cheerleaders work hard, just as hard as the basketball and volleyball teams. So why is it then that most people do not consider cheerleading a sport? The Women's Sports Foundation lists 4 guidelines that must be met in order to be considered a sport: physical activity, competition, rules and regulations, and the skills of those participating. I will discuss how cheerleading falls into each of these categories to be considered a sport. The first is cheerleading as a physical activity. The Women's Sports Foundation says, a physical activity which involves propelling a mass through space or overcoming the resistance of a mass. I do not believe that there is any other sport that can propel a greater mass through space than cheerleading. Cheerleaders do not propel objects through space, but they propel themselves and other cheerleaders. There's a popular quote that says, "Wimps lift weights, cheerleaders lift people." Cheerleaders must condition just like any other sport to be able to have the strength to lift girls in the air. Cheerleading combines the gymnastics with dance. Cheerleaders must be as strong as football players, as poised as any dancer, and as flexible as the best gymnasts. With all these things considered, I don't think there is any question that cheerleading is a physical activity. The next guideline that must be met is competition. The guideline states, a contest or competition against or with an opponent. You may find this hard to believe, but I do not consider all cheerleading to be a sport. I only believe that competition cheering should be considered a sport. Sideline cheering, like at a game for instance, is entirely different from competing. Getting ready for a competition takes much more time, energy, sacrifice, dedication, hard work, and passion. Not all cheerleading squads compete, but cheerleading competitions are becoming more popular. There are all-star cheer squads that are designed solely for the purpose of competing. Allison from Texas said, "Football players have all season to prove themselves. We have 2 minutes and 30 seconds. This guideline deals largely with the statement "with an opponent." At cheerleading competitions, not only are the squads trying to beat out one squad, but they are competing against every squad that is there. They have to work hard and perform their best. The better they do, the more squads they will beat. My cheer squad competes annually in regionals and state, and this year we're even going to nationals. At regionals, we placed 3rd, and out of 7 squads, so that means that we had to beat out 4 other squads because we were competing against them. At state, we placed 5th, and there were 11 squads present, and so we beat out 6 of those squads. Okay, the next point is that it must be governed by rules which explicitly define the time, space, purpose of the contest and the conditions under which a winner is declared. Many of the cheerleading rules are designed for safety, just as any other sport. In volleyball, players are not allowed to cross underneath the net for harm that it could bring to players if one was to land on the other's foot. In basketball, fouls are kept as consequences so that the game does not get too intense and rough, so players are less likely to be harmed. In cheerleading, there is a restriction on what stunts can and cannot be performed for obvious safety reasons. There are also certain rules that come with competing. All routines must be between 2 minutes and 30 seconds and 3 minutes. The music portion of the routine must not exceed the cheering portion of the routine in time. No jewelry is to be worn, and any rules that are broken result in deduction of points. A major rule that cheerleading has in common with all other sports is eligibility. All students participating in sports events must maintain a certain GPA, and this includes cheerleading. All athletes are required to have a physical before the first practice, and all athletes must complete a certain number of practices before they are allowed to play in a game or compete. This includes cheerleading. Many believe that cheerleading competitions are not considered a sport because the outcome is subjective. It is true that the winner of a cheerleading competition is decided upon a panel of judges and the outcome is based on their opinions. But the same then must be true for all sports. They all must be subjective. In basketball, for instance, the refs call the game as they see necessary. The ref is responsible for deciding whether a player traveled, fouled, double dribbled, or tied the ball up. The ref calls the plays based on what he sees in his opinion, and which may ultimately affect the end of the game. The same is true for softball and baseball. The umpire who stands at home plate is responsible for calling whether the pitch was a strike or a ball and whether the runners are safe or out. And his opinion can also affect the end result of the game. The last guideline that must be met is the acknowledged primary purpose of the competition is a comparison of relative skills of the participants, meaning the competition winner is based off of the comparison of two teams and which one is better. I mentioned before that cheerleading is not only a competition against one squad, but a contest between a large number of squads. Each squad performs and is compared to other squads. They are compared on level of difficulty in the execution of their routine. The athletes must possess flexibility, sharpness, cleanness, and unity as a whole. When it comes down to it, the winner is going to be the squad with the most flexible girls, with the sharpest motions, with the cleanest routine, and the best unification of the squad. Therefore, the winners of the contest are directly related to the skills of the athletes. I hope you will no longer view cheerleading as preppy blondes in short skirts, but that you see that cheerleaders are athletes competing in a sport that they love. Yes, sport. Cheerleading is extremely physical activity and takes hard work and dedication in order to succeed. Cheerleading is also a competition. Not all schools compete, but those that do competitions know that it requires a whole new perspective. More time, energy, sacrifice, dedication, and hard work are needed when competing in a cheerleading contest. Cheerleaders spend just as much time in practice as the other sports do, and they work just as hard. Cheerleading has many rules and regulations just like any sport and must be followed in order to keep the athletes safe. A winner is based subjectively just as in any other sport. And lastly, the winners of the competition are based on the skill level of the squads participating. Allison from Texas also said this: the cheerleading challenge: early morning practice, late night practice, weekend practice, summer-long practice, short skirts, bare legs, freezing rain, and your team is losing by 32. Keep cheerleading. That's what we do. Here's a video of a competition. This is the University of Kentucky.